There we go.
Hello. We
Hello.
are live. Hi, everybody. I'm Kendall Jones. That guy, it's hard for me to, that guy over there is Alex Dittmar. He is the head honcho.
Okay.
It's hard because everything's backwards. This is very fitting for the world these days.
Right.
Left is right and right is left, and everything's backwards and upside down. So we got Alex Dittmar from Airways Brewing here, and I was just asking Alex to define himself. I call you the brewmaster, co-owner. What do you call yourself?
I say founder because that's one of those generic terms that years down the line, they can put you into a room, an office with a pencil and a notepad, and people will ask, what does that guy do? And they'll be like, oh, he's the founder, like Famous Amos. Yes, so the founder.
Or how about maybe you'll be like Ezel? No?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But not opening another non-Airways named location, hopefully. Founder and head brewer at Airways Brewing for the past 10 years, which is how long we've been around. 10 years last month.
10 years last month.
Yes.
I'm drinking one of your two anniversary beers right here.
Me too. I think we're drinking the same beer.
The Bock.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Spring Bock. Cheers to you.
Thanks
for having me here.
You're not drinking. I'm drinking. It's really good. This is actually my very last can. I bought a bunch of each. I bought a bunch of the Bock and a bunch of the IPA that you guys made for the anniversary with a bunch of your friends.
Thank you for doing that too. Yes.
But this is I like the Bock because this is the very last of it for me, and I had quite a bit of it down in the garage, and it made its way up to the fridge, and now it's made its way down the stream. But I wanted to ask you, what about your 10th anniversary? Now, you had a 10th anniversary celebration planned, and it got canceled.
Yes.
Of course, like everything else, it got canceled. So is that going to make this, interestingly, this is probably going to be a very memorable anniversary for you guys.
Definitely. I've been telling people that it's like I couldn't tell you what we did for the 5th or 6th anniversary, but I'm sure going to be able to tell you in a year what we did for the 10th anniversary, and I'll always remember it. So lots of memories. It was a little tough the day that we were supposed to have the party on a Friday and a Saturday, and it was a little tough on that Friday. It was a beautiful sunny day like today, 62 degrees. And I'll not forget walking out to my car and thinking, there should be people sitting here right now celebrating our anniversary. But instead, it was just eerily quiet as I got into my car by myself and drove myself home. So, yeah, we're bummed, of course, but you roll with the punches, and eventually we'll have some kind of celebration. And we still have the beers, which we can talk about, and they turned out fantastic. So, obviously, nobody could have predicted this, but we'll look back on it maybe and laugh one day. I'm kind of laughing now.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, hopefully we'll look back on it and, if not laugh, we'll all be able to someday hug each other and say, my God, we got through it.
Yes, we survived.
Right now, I think we should I want everybody out there just to focus on staying alive. Whatever this world is going to look like when we come out the other side, let's all be there to see it, okay?
Exactly. And that's what's important.
We may not recognize it, but let's at least be there, okay?
Right.
So let's talk about the beer. This is, you call it a Spring Bock. And
correct.
Why don't you just tell me a little bit more about the beer while I drink it?
So yeah, we have two beers, and we'll talk about this one since we're both drinking it. It is called, and I have the can, which I did not bring the IPA can, but I did bring the lager can, and it is called Clearing Customs, and it has the logos of the Airways 10th anniversary logo, and we started thinking about these beers in the beginning of last year and planning them. And the idea was for the two beers to get the breweries that we had brewed a lager with, and then the breweries that we were going to be brewing an IPA with in 2019, to have 4 of them for each beer, and brew the 10th anniversary beers together. So it was strategic in that sense. The lager, as you know, I have a huge passion for lagers, especially German lagers and German beer, given my mom being a true born and raised German. The lager idea was born out of that concept to do it with the 4 different breweries, and we were fortunate enough to collaborate with 4 fantastic breweries on this. Number 1 was Matchless Brewing out of Tumwater, and my friend Aaron Blondin, who was the head brewer at the time there. He has now moved on to Three Magnets Brewing, and Aaron and I had known each other for almost the entire time Airways has been around.
And also, you guys have another thing in common. You both have had exceptional success at the GABF with your Pilsner.
Exactly. And we had won a gold medal at GABF for our Pilsner in 2014, and then numerous Washington Beer Award gold medals as well for it. Aaron had won a medal for his Pilsner from Chainline Brewing, where he was the head brewer. So them, and then some fantastic folks that are newer to the beer scene, Headless Mumby Brewing down in Olympia. The first time I walked in there, I was skeptical of an all lager brewery. Like, all right, I've seen this tried before. As far as lagers, who knows? And I took a sip of my beer and went, oh my God. And I took a sip of my wife's beer and I went, oh my God. And met the 2 owners were there, Keith and Alex, and said, you guys are making some fantastic stuff. And hey, I'm going to make this lager. And if you want to join me, come on by. So I was actually their first ever collaboration for Headless Mumby.
Yeah. So and they made the Dortmunder for
we'll talk about the third
Alex's birthday.
The third,
we'll talk about the unofficial third,
the unofficial one, yes, which was an amazing thing. And then Two Beers Brewing. I have a long history with Two Beers in that we brewed all of our large batches of beer at Two Beers Brewing for the first 2 years of our existence. And my friend Joel, who was the founder of Two Beers, actually sat me down in the Hudson pub right around the corner and said, "You really want to do this?" And I said, "Yeah."
He wasn't able to talk. He wasn't able to talk you out of it, huh?
Yeah, I always say that's where I started blaming you at that point. And
if you're looking for advice about opening a brewery, don't ask a brewer.
Right? Exactly.
You're only going to get one piece of advice, and that's don't do it.
Exactly. Well, he was generous enough to offer his brewery space. We bought a tank and put it in Two Beers, and I would come after my day job at Alaska Airlines. I would come and brew beer at Two Beers, and sometimes I'd be there till 10 or 11 at night, and then go to work the next day. I remember one particularly long brew session being there till 4 in the morning, and then racing down the street and going to work at 7. So it was actually a really fun time. And they trusted me with the keys and the alarm codes to Two Beers. And I look back on that with a lot of fondness. And we actually washed kegs there for 4 years until they I think got a little sick of me and suggested, hey, maybe you should buy your own keg washer. But I've maintained a good relationship with the folks at Two Beers. We did a Mosaic hopped Pilsner with them last year in 2019. And so they were also a collaborator. And then one of my favorite lager breweries as well is in Seattle, and that is Stoop Brewing. And one day, I didn't know Brad, one of their founders and head brewers, very well. But one day I went in and introduced myself and said, I really like your beers, especially your Pilsner. And so he and I started chatting, and he knew about our success with our Pilsner. And when I would go up there, I would just chat with him about lagers, and found out he was as passionate about them as I was. And I told him about my project and said, actually, I'll take that back. I told him I wanted to do a beer with him based on the communal breweries in the Franconian region of Germany called Zeugl, so Zoigl. And the idea was that we would come up with a recipe, and we would brew it, and we ended up doing this at Stoop, brew the wort, and we then transported 8 barrels of that wort back to Airways in the van in a big tote and pumped it into our fermenter. And then Brad pumped the beer into his fermenter, the remaining beer, and we each used our lager yeasts for the same beer. And then when that was all said and done, we both had those beers on at our respective pubs. And that was a lot of fun. And Brad makes fantastic beer, fun to hang around. So I asked him if he wanted to be part of our anniversary project, and he said yes as well. So we have Headless Mumby, Matchless, 2 Beers, and Stoop all brewed this, and we came up with a Helles Bock as the style. And just for an added twist, added Hallertauer Blanc, which is a more fruity German hop in the whirlpool, to add some notes of Sauvignon Blanc grapes and everything, and used the White Labs Bock strain, and it came out very tasty. In fact, I'll have a sip right now as well.
Cheers.
And the theme you'll see in a second, Clearing Customs, ties in obviously to Airways and airlines, and the challenge for us was, how do you get 4 different brewery logos on a can plus ours? So the can design reflects that, and we can see that as I got to remember to turn it the opposite way, that the brewery logos, Headless Mumby and Matchless, and there's Airways, and then Stoop, and 2 Beers. Would have been nice if I actually brought the IPA can home to show you as well, but I left that at work.
Well, how about I show?
Oh, yes.
And
then we can talk about the IPA as well.
Yeah.
Also tied in. So the artwork is tied in for the 2 of them, and also the theme of Clearing Customs and Nothing to Declare.
Yeah, I'm gonna do something here, and this is a homage of one of my friends that is no longer with us. I'm gonna go, ooh, nice, because that's what we do.
Nice.
I'm gonna pour the hazy IPA now. But before I do that, tell us a little bit about. I mean, what were you looking for? The spring Bock. I don't know that. I mean, I think a lot of people are familiar with Bock, but you decided to call this one a spring Bock, right?
We did, because of the hop choice. And first of all, our anniversary party was due to be a spring fest because it fell on the first day of spring. So, which was a beautiful day, which I always say that the first day of the season seems to give an indication of what the season will be like, and weather-wise at least. Throw in a pandemic, and that was a surprise. But so we thought that the Hallertauer Blanc, which was a different hop to use rather than a noble German hop, we thought that the flavor of that, which is a little similar to a Nelson Sauvin hop from New Zealand, added more of a springy flavor than a traditional Bock beer. So hence the name Spring Bock.
Okay. So how would it differ from a Maibock?
So definitely not as grain-wise, not as malty, and doesn't have that kind of floralness that I would say you get from a regular Bock. And I would say more hoppy in terms of flavor and aroma. I mean, I pick up that white wine, white grape aroma and flavor at the very end of it when I drink it. I love the body on this beer. I think that it hit exactly what we were going for, is that it's this beer is a little drier than a normal sweet malty Bock, and the body comes across very full, but it doesn't fill you up as you drink it, unless you drink 5 of them, then all bets are off.
And you become a beer zombie.
Exactly. I don't encourage 5. Now 4 will get you a 4-pack. So, but yes, 5 would.
4 is a good place. 4 is a good number.
Exactly.
Beer. So let's move on to the anniversary IPA. Backing up for just a second, I want to say that I don't know who else is paying attention to us right now, but a lot of the breweries we've been talking about are breweries that people recognize with names that they know. But Headless Mumby is pretty new, and they are doing outstanding stuff. We walked in there. We had a similar story to yours. We walked in there and it was like, I don't know what this place is all about. And they were playing an obscure Rolling Stones album, when they were playing it on vinyl, spinning the vinyl of an old Rolling Stones album. I had to scratch my head and figure out which one it was, which is pretty hardcore for me. And then we tasted the beer and we're like, ooh, yeah, these guys are awesome. So yeah, shout out to Headless Mumby. Like I say, we've been talking about, and we're going to be talking about some breweries with names that everybody knows, and we all know they're great breweries, but Headless Mumby is pretty new on the scene, and they're doing really, really good work down there in Olympia. So let's move on to the Hazy IPA, which is, as you can tell, it is legitimately hazy.
It is.
Not hazy for the sake of being hazy, but it's legitimately hazy. And it's hazy for the sake of giving it the aroma and the texture that it has in the mouthfeel, I can tell.
Oh, yeah. So that one, we picked the 4 breweries ahead of time, talked to the folks there. They were all friends. So we'll start with, we'll just go in order, actually, that we brewed the beers throughout 2019. The 4 beers that then made up the anniversary beer. So the first quarter of 2019, we brewed with Matchless again. And it was pointed out to me when we brewed with Matchless a couple months ago that I believe we had done 7 collaborations with Matchless. I'd even forgotten one of them. And it's like, oh my God. But again, it just kind of wound up that way. Aaron and I have known each other a long time, and we'd ask, hey, you want to do another beer? You want to do this with us? And so they came. Aaron and I had actually done a beer together in 2018 for our 8th anniversary called Batch 707, which won a gold medal at the Washington Beer Awards that year. And so we did.
Okay. Hold on.
Yes,
hold on.
Yes.
Okay. I want to ask you a question. This is a very pertinent question to your story. Airways Brewing. We know that you have an affinity for commercial air travel and commercial airliner. So I have to ask you, what is your favorite commercial airliner in history?
Oh, it would have to be the Queen of the Skies, the mighty Boeing 747.
Cheers. Okay, that's all I needed to know.
Yes, cheers to that, and the Queen. Long live the Queen.
Long live the Queen. That plane will be flying 50 years from now.
Exactly. Well, and
okay,
I am also 50, as is that plane. So it does mean. I know you can't tell because there's no lines here.
Me neither. You know what the difference
this
is
might give it away, but this could happen at any age. So yes.
I wanted to thank you, not just for coming on with me tonight, but for giving me a reason to shave.
There we go. Yes,
it's the first one I've had. The first one I've had. And you've got that fair hair skin thing going. I get pretty ugly, but this is the first time I've had an excuse to shave in weeks. I have to admit, I'm not wearing real pants. I'm wearing sweatpants because whatever. Who wears pants anymore? Anyway, let's get back to your beer.
See, I'm wearing jeans. I have a schedule. Is that I come home, I switch from my work pants to my jeans until 7 p.m. And then at 7, I switch to my pajama pants. So I try to maintain some level of sanity. So I'm wearing my jeans right now. Yes. All right. So Aaron and we did a beer called Batch 2707, which was our official 9th anniversary beer, and it was also our first quarter beer. And for true airliner nerds, the Batch 2707 refers to the Boeing supersonic transport that was never to be. And that was a beer with coconut and Sabro, which was a newer hop variety at the time that we contracted for, and El Dorado.
Still one of my favorite hop varieties.
Oh yeah, definitely
really cool.
So lots of pineapple and stuff going on. Oh, it was so good. So we did the Batch 2707, and then second quarter we brewed with a brewery that I have loved for a long time, and in fact, The first time I toured it, the only time I toured it, Manny Chow himself conducted the tour, and that is Georgetown. And so Matt Edwards from Georgetown, who's their research and development brewer, he and I had met when we moved our brewery in 2016. He was sitting alongside the pad one day, actually read on the Washington Beer blog about something called Jumbo Juice, which is one of our beers, and came in and introduced himself.
Jumbo Juice.
Yeah, we talked about doing a beer for a long time. So Georgetown was the second beer, and that was second quarter of 2019, and it was called Spirit of Aloha, and it was a beer with IPA with guava and mango. We go, get it all out of the can. And so Georgetown was number 2. Number 3 was the wonderful Aslan Brewing up in Bellingham, which Frank up there is doing some fantastic beers. Some of the best lagers in the state, too, are also being brewed up at Aslan as well. And a lot of them don't make it down here. They kind of do now with their Fremont location, but it's definitely worth the drive in Bellingham. And Aslan has also been, they're also some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. So we did a beer with all South African hops. And that was our third beer. And then the fourth beer was a guy that is probably unknown, little brewery called Rubens. I think Rubens.
Rubens? Is
yeah.
that, yeah, Rubens.
I think it's Rubens. Rubens?
Yeah,
Rubens.
And, they're in that what do they call that place where they have breweries?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Some neighborhood in Seattle where they have a bunch of breweries. I just can't remember.
Like yeah. But Adam Robbins and I had known each other for since Rubens started. He would staff their tasting room when we'd come in, and he and I had brewed together 6 years before. We had brewed a rye pilsner together, and I asked him to be the fourth brewery, and we did a beer with German hops and American hops and English yeast. So we got the German, the English part, since Adam is British, and the American, since we both live here now. So that led to Matchless, Georgetown, Aslan, and Rubens, which is a fine group of breweries producing Nothing to Declare, which is a hazy IPA with hops from around the world. So Australian Galaxy, German Callista, American Citra, and South African Southern Passion, which Matt Edwards from Georgetown claims is his nickname, Southern Passion. I'm not really sure why, and it's actually kind of disturbing. But
hey, Alex,
yes,
Alex,
sir.
I want to know that somebody named Adam wants to know if the 7 p.m. pajama pants routine is a new company policy.
It is.
He says he may or may not be tending bar at one of your locations right now.
We're gonna have to chat about that in public. Only allowed in private, or to maintain sanity. So,
okay.
Hi, Adam.
But anyway, to kind of fast forward the conversation a little bit. You assembled a pretty damn impressive bunch of breweries to work with you on these two beers.
Yes.
So I mean, it's like, to me, these are two of the better beers that I've had in a long time. You guys did a really good job.
Well,
the hazy IPA. I mean, I can kind of taste everybody's influence. I know sometimes collaboration beers are kind of nonsense, to be honest with you. Looks like most of the people involved here tonight are in the industry, so I can say that. Y'all kind of wave your hands over the tank and go, there, I contributed. But this one, I can taste a little bit of Aslan in here, and I can taste a little bit of Georgetown in here.
Everybody contributed. I'll have to say, nobody sat on the sidelines and said they didn't have an opinion, or, oh, that sounds good. We tried to take something from every single brewery and then incorporate it into our brew process. The brew sessions themselves were kind of fun in that people just pretty much came and sat around and ate pizza and drank beer, which
right.
I saw you.
Sounds like
at Browers. We were there for the Triple IPA Fest, correct? And
Yep. Hot mom.
I saw Brad from Stupa. I said, "Hey, thanks for coming to the brew session." He goes, "I sat around, I drank beer and ate pizza. Sounds good. Best brew session in the world." So we had a lot of fun with them. But everybody
somebody
contributed.
has to work.
And that's quite an impressive list of breweries. And I'm still humbled by the fact that these folks wanted to work with us. And I joked about that with Georgetown, and they're like, "You're serious?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's Georgetown. It's something I've looked up to for so many years, and you want to brew a beer with me twice."
So, they're kind of a big deal, Georgetown,
right?
But if once you get to know them, you don't even have to get to know them. It's hard not to know them. They're still just as humble and nice of people as anybody.
Yeah, all of these people.
Like you were talking about Manny. You were talking about Manny directing the tour when you went to the brewery. It's like that was probably still in the days when he didn't trust anybody else to do it.
That's probably right. And that was the old facility. I mean, the original facility. And they were talking about how they were maxed capacity and they were looking at moving and everything. So it's been a while. It was the best tour I've ever taken. So I still have the Georgetown pint glass that we were given after that.
So in a couple of brewery tours.
Yes, I still enjoy them. So I like seeing what other people do and everything. So it's fun. See what people do and have some of their beer. Geek out on equipment and stuff like that. So those were our two beers, and we should talk about the third beer that you mentioned as well, the mystery beer.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Dortmunder.
So the guys at Headless Monday.
I like saying that word. That's a fun word to say. Yes. Dortmunder. Yeah.
One day I get this text from Keith at Headless Mumby in Olympia, and he said, "Hey, we're going to make a beer called Dittmar's Dortmunder. We could make it a collaboration, or maybe you just come down, or you should probably be part of it." And I thought, well, my name's on it, so I should probably be part of it. I honestly had no idea. I thought they were just making a beer that called Dittmar's Dortmunder just because they liked the sound of it. I had no idea they were making a beer for us for our 10th anniversary. And so I went down to Olympia that day, hung out for the brew session, had some of their delicious beer, and we actually released it a couple weeks before the anniversary and even had a German gravity cask of it on our bar. And I don't know, in the Washington beer history, you'd know better than I am. I would, if another brewery has made an anniversary beer for a different brewery.
Someone else?
Yeah. And so that was pretty unique, and the beer was fantastic. And we still have 2 small kegs in our fridge that said "Save for Anniversary Party." So someday we'll serve it again.
That's awesome. So for people who don't know, Dortmunder is a very interesting. It's interesting in that it's fun to say, and that it's a beer style that, you tell me if I'm wrong, Alex, you know more about German beer than I do by far. It kind of falls in between a Helles and a Pilsner, in that it's in terms of its gravity, it kind of falls in the middle there. It's not quite as hoppy as a Pilsner. It's hoppier than a. I think Dortmunder should be the next IPA. That's what I'm shooting for.
Exactly.
When I was in high school, a bunch of my friends broke into a beer distributor. They weren't really my friends. I can't say they were my friends. They're people I knew. And they stole a bunch of Dab out of a rail car that was destined to be returned. A bunch of beer that was destined to be returned. And suddenly at my high school, everybody was drinking Dab.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, a bunch of high school kids that were drinking warm beer out of kegs in the woods. All of a sudden they're drinking this really, really good German beer. It's like, and I was like, I think I was the only one who appreciated it. But that's just a little bit about me. That tells you something about me and my illustrious background. So I got a few questions for you to finish up here, Alex. Number one, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Well, that's one thing we have in common.
Yes.
If you had to pick one beer style to be your desert island beer style, the only style of beer you would have on your island, what would it be? Dun, dun, dun.
If I just picked by style, I would say fest beer, like the contemporary Munich fest beer, Wiesenbier, the golden, almost imperial Helles type thing, because I can just drink that all day.
Mm.
And I'd have to if I was
Okay.
stranded on the island and that was the only thing.
Okay. So, and I guess I already asked you about what your favorite airliner is, but
Oh, yes.
if this is a kind of a painful one, but if you could get on a Boeing 747, if you could do that right now,
Right.
and you could go and you could go anywhere in the world for 2 weeks, where would you go?
I would have to say Bamberg, Germany, because it's one of my favorite places.
You'd go someplace you've already been. You'd go to someplace you've already been and that you're already familiar with.
I just we travel with another couple a lot, and they like to explore different places as I do. But I always like that familiar feeling of going to my favorite places, like Munich. And I say Bamberg because I'd have to pass through Munich, which is my all-time favorite city. It's just like a warm hug that you get there, and it hugs you and welcomes you back. Sounds corny, but it's true. So, Kendall, I'm staring at my screen. I'm not sure what you see, but I just see a frozen image of you. So if I look like an idiot, it's because I can't hear you or see you any longer. I might look like an idiot for other reasons.